Right, welcome to this. I thought we'd have a little marketing catch-up chat, David. It's obviously been a really interesting 20 years for you from a marketing point of view. I know, 20 years. I wanted to take you back to sort of 2002 and look at that ADT logo as it was, and the world was very different back there in 2002, wasn't it?
Back in 2002, which, a long time ago now, well, ADT came. It originally was going to be David Ashley Transport, DAT, but obviously the Yellow Pages was a massive influence on marketing then. So if you had the A at the beginning of any name, you'd be higher up in the listing. So it was switched around to become ADT. So we got a higher listing in the Yellow Pages.
So it was a sort of a different way of thinking about marketing back then even, wasn't it? Like alphabetical becoming important. And again, the media that was being used back then, print mostly.
Yeah,
print,
local
posters.
papers, the Loughborough Echo was the dominant newspaper. There was no, the internet had only really just began to take off, and really all there was Yale.com, but people were still using that big block of cheese that used to come through the Yellow Pages as the main source of seeking out what was local.
And it brings this like pretty much maybe 15 years, 20 years later. There is digital now, digital marketing. So talk us through what have you found that works and doesn't work maybe in digital marketing?
I think at the beginning, obviously to have a website was quite important. So we're quite early adopters of websites and web bookers. So you could take a booking from your website, but it was still a manual process that it would come through on an email and then you'd have to input it in. We used to do a bit of, Facebook was only just beginning, so a lot of budget went on to advertising on like local indexes, like these are all your businesses in Charnwood and that sort of thing. So Facebook took that away.
Yeah.
So Facebook really was the big explosion. You could put advertising in events. Back in the day, Facebook wasn't monetized, so it was organic, so you could just post something and people would see it. Whereas now there's algorithms and all kinds of things you have to navigate through to get your message across. So it was quite a simpler world as far as Facebook, but again, there was a big heap of people that weren't on the internet then, so we still had to do marketing in the traditional way, putting cards in phone boxes, in pubs and hospitals, leafleting, putting free phones into supermarkets. Of course, this was very costly because that was requiring hardware. Mobile phones weren't like that then. They were. The kids today won't understand how difficult it was to send a text. You'd have like different two, three letters on one key, and it was like, it was an art form. But again, digital marketing was in its infancy.
And again, now obviously you use a lot of digital side. You've got phone apps that you've developed. Did you ever think that you'd be involved in developing phone apps like you are so much?
No. When we began, we didn't know what a phone app was,
But now probably one of your key funnels into the business.
Yeah, phone apps, we run at 80% automation now across the country because of the phone app. But yeah, to get people to download this app that could book a taxi, and to begin with, the apps were very basic. They were just like a website, so they were a little bit clunky, whereas now, it picks up your location from the GPS, doesn't even ask you for your pickup because it knows where you are, where we're sat at the moment. So it's now literally a few presses and you make a booking. Back then it was like using those keypads.
Yeah.
So very clunky, but yeah, it's amazing how far that has sort of brought us and cut down on cost as well.
So you've designed phone apps and the marketing of them, the websites, you've got the social media side.
Yeah.
Content's always been, you've got to understand your customer, haven't you? You've got to understand what they want to get out of things. Yeah,
and you've got to understand this, with taxis, we're a varied market, but at different times of the day, we're attracting a different slice of that market. So Mrs. Miggins isn't going to go and get her haircut on a Friday night at 11 o'clock at night, but her grandchildren might be out partying. So you've got to know which segment of
Yeah.
society to hit. And of course, you've got the business market, which is probably more LinkedIn than Facebook. And of course, I say Facebook, but now that's become like the yellow pages. Kids today are on TikTok and
Be Real, David. Are you aware of Be Real yet? Are your kids onto that? I mean, TikTok, as you say, is already is mainstream, isn't it? And we, I know you've been playing around with content on there. It's not. It is a bit like the Wild West TikTok, isn't it? Content.
Well, literally. I mean, you're not reading it. You're literally doing that with your thumb, aren't you? You're flicking. And
so you've got to be snappy.
You've got to get them in literally a microsecond for somebody to even pause to look at it for a couple of seconds. So, and the same really with Instagram.
Yeah, you've got to be in it to win it though.
Oh yeah, if you're not in it,
because some businesses, I'm sure, watch this and say, "Oh, I don't understand TikTok or Instagram Reels or."
Well, you don't ever want to become the Kodak of your trade by not backing some of these horses.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got to be in it to it, and of course it can be a lot of fun experimenting as well. And occasionally you do, and you know better than I, but occasionally you hit across gold. So you might put a bit of content up and it just hits at the right time and goes viral or gets a lot of interest. But some stuff you think, well, that's going to work, doesn't work. So it's very much trying different ideas and adapting those ideas.
I think that Gordon Ramsay video that you made for ADT hit 400,000 people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like you say, exploded a little bit. I think bring it to today though, David. Do you find is it a blend of the new and the old? Are you still have you almost gone back a little bit now to still using some of the?
There's a few examples. So about 10 years ago, QR codes became the thing, and we were all putting these little QR codes even on newspaper adverts. But then not every phone could recognise a QR code. It was a bit hit and miss. Then they went out of fashion. Then COVID came along. You remember coming into places like this, you'd have to scan a QR code. And now everyone's using QR codes again. So they've come back again. But also we still use leafleting because you can target a postcode. It comes through the door, it's tangible. And we use the leaflet as a way to get people onto the digital platforms. Here's a QR code, download the app. And we still use some of those localized magazines as well, because people do keep them, they're still looking for traders. So not everyone is on TikTok, Facebook, what was that new one you mentioned?
Be Real.
Be Real, all the time. Some people still sit in an armchair and read a paper or a book. I mean, I understand I've got a Kindle, but I much prefer to hold something tangible.
Yeah.
I find it easier with my eyesight to read a book than.
Well, and some of those free magazines that come through the door sometimes, I still have a flick through those, so and I know you're still advertising those.
Oh yeah. So we're probably not putting so much of the budget into it, but what we do, it's like a funnel. We're trying to get everyone digitised, so hopefully they pick that up and it gets them into the funnel. Move them over.
Brilliant. All right. Well, listen, David. Thanks so much for having this little lunchtime chat with
No,
us.
thank you. What's for pudding?
We've been down here at Peter's Pizzas in Loughborough, and it is
fantastic.
We've filled up on pizza. It's been fantastic. But thanks so much for David joining us, and well done again on CEO of the Year. So well done to David.
Thank you, Phil.